Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. And today's podcast is called I Don't Chase, I Attract. And I've seen a lot of these manifesting affirmations on TikTok lately. And I was wondering what people were thinking about it, so I asked my daughter. And when I stated the affirmation, she kind of giggled, and she said, "Yes, I know that one. I love that one. I don't chase, I attract." And I asked her what it meant. And she said, I honestly not sure. I don't really know how not to chase and to attract. Do I just sit in my bed and hope someone calls me and gives me a job? And she starts to laugh. And I know she was kind of kidding, but it is interesting to think about what that actually means. And in my own life, yes, there have been times where I have gone into just such a deep state of openness, and maybe has the phone rang with a wonderful opportunity? Yes, it's happened. But most of the time in my life, I need to work for the things that I have in my life. I need to set intentions, and I need to put a lot of stuff out there. I need to do a lot of writing. I need to call a lot of people. I need to pitch a lot of my projects. But there is a difference, though, between doing that and chasing. And the more I'm able to do that without chasing, I do believe that I attract more in my life. So how do we do this? How do we work hard but not chase and be open enough to attract? Because it is very appealing. Even if you just sit there and feel that, it's almost like a relief. It's a relief to think, I don't have to chase. I don't have to try to make people like me. I don't have to try to make someone give me a job. I don't have to do all that. And I could just attract for who I am. It just allows you just to breathe. So how can we make this happen? And how I see it is the chase is when we don't believe that things could happen. And the chase is when we don't give things space. And the chase is when we feel desperate that if this one thing will happen, we'll be saved. We need it to be a certain way to be okay. That's the biggest thing that causes us pain in life. That you meet somebody and you think, if they don't like me, I'm not going to be okay. Or there's a job you want and you believe, if I don't get that job, things are not going to work out in my life. It's like we start to chase things down, believing that if I have that one thing, then I'm going to be okay and my life's going to be abundant and everything's going to work out. And what we don't see is that when we grasp too hard at things, sometimes they are beyond our reach. Sometimes people get turned off from our behavior, or sometimes our energy is so intense it actually repels something. But there's a grace and dignity that we could have instead. That's not chasing. And that grace and dignity comes from figuring out what you want, figuring out a relationship that you want, a job that you want, a career that you want, a friendship that you want, figuring out what your desires are, what your needs are. And I've talked about that on other podcasts. And then if you want to get a certain job, well, you're going to have to do your resume and send it out. But after you send it out, you could let go. You could let go and not chase it. And just energetically say, I put it out there and now I'm open to what comes back to me. I'm open to what the universe will provide. I'm open to all the possibilities. Or you could stay in a very deep state of maybe and allow it to come back to you. That's what the attraction is. It's putting it out there without all these knots and attachments, just putting it out there freely, letting it float, and knowing that if it happens, that could be wonderful. But if it doesn't, that's okay too. And when you're able to do that, you're not chasing. When you're able to sit back and stay open to everything, then you're attracting. And that's how the game works. And if it's a relationship, then you put out what you want. You think about it, and maybe you do go to a couple events, or maybe you do sign up for an app. But again, you do it with that grace and dignity that you love yourself. And you know you're deserving. And you know that you're worthy of a beautiful relationship. And so when something doesn't feel right, you're not going to chase it. You're not going to be desperate. You're not going to write somebody back who's not treating you well, or you're not going to want to go out with someone who doesn't align with your morals or values. You're going to stay steady within yourself. So you put yourself out there and you're not chasing. And you have this opening And eventually you will attract. I do believe that. And the same thing goes for money and opportunities and everything in your life. It's all about alignment. And we become misaligned when we become desperate. And again, we become desperate when we believe we need one thing to happen to be okay. We always must remember there are many ways to be okay. And that one thing you think is going to save you in life is not. And if desperation comes up, we work through it. And you could use the maybe practice and ask yourself your fear and then use maybe statements to let it go. Maybe I don't need that one thing to happen to be okay. Maybe something else will happen. Maybe I could still have the opportunities I want in another way. You just unhook. And then you go back to yourself and you allow and you attract. And I truly believe that this is how most things manifest. So although we could make light of the manifesting affirmations, it does feel really wonderful not to chase. It's a beautiful thing to believe that we don't have to compromise ourselves. We don't have to chase something to be okay, to be successful, to be abundant. But I do believe we have to work at the things that we care about. We need to do a good job at work. We need to take good care of ourselves. We need to finish our projects. We need to call the right people. But we don't know how it'll happen from there. It's all a maybe. It's all uncertain. And so the lighter we can be with that part, the easier it's going to be. And that's really an act of loving ourselves. Because we're saying we're deserving, we're believing in our work, we're believing in who we are, we're believing in our ability to attract a partner, we're believing in all that. And then we align with ourselves, and again, that's when grace and dignity comes in. You get to sit back a little bit and see what comes back to you. And it is a much easier way to live. Any time in my life when I believed something had to be a certain way, it was so painful. And sometimes it would happen and sometimes it wouldn't, but the pain was never worth it. And you also can't really act like yourself, because if you're so desperate for something to happen, you're going to compromise yourself, you're going to act differently, you're going to have sleepless nights, you're going to do so many things that are detrimental to you because you're believing you need something outside of you to save you. And that's what the chase is about. It's about, I need to chase this to save myself. I need to chase this to be safe. I need to chase this to be okay. And we know that safety lies within. So when we generate that from within, and then we put our great work out there, and we put our intentions out there, and we put our best foot forward, then we allow the universe to do the rest of the work, or we allow ourselves to attract those possibilities, however you want to view it. So I don't chase, I attract is actually a beautiful manifesting affirmation. It's just really understanding what that means. Stay true to our intentions and we work on our dreams and then we let go, then we will attract a lot of wonderful things in our lives. And sometimes we attract something we didn't expect and it ends up being wonderful. Sometimes we attract the exact thing we wanted. And sometimes it will take time, but whatever happens, we'll be acting in truth. And the best part is we'll get to live with that wonderful feeling that we don't need to be anybody other than ourselves to be okay. I hope you try this affirmation, but most of all, I hope you could feel that freedom within you, that you are deserving of the things you want in your life. And who you are is all you need to be. We could create instead of chase. We could attract instead of grab. And most of all, we could be ourselves and create a beautiful, wonderful life. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you could email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my books, The Gift of Maybe or A Year Without Men, they're available at all major bookstores and online retailers. And if you like this podcast, you could subscribe and leave a comment.